Thank you. I'm just exhausted.
I know you are.
Tammy sat in the hospital room, her breathing heavy and her face pale as the doctors carefully explained the magnitude of the day ahead, their words underscoring just how complex and dangerous this surgery would be, a full-scale operation requiring no fewer than 12 people actively working at once: surgeons, anesthesiologists, surgical technicians, and operating room nurses, each with their own crucial role to play in keeping her alive through a procedure that would stretch on for hours, a day's worth of work condensed into one battle for survival. And as the reality of that sunk in, the doctors offered the family a moment to say their goodbyes, not knowing whether they would be temporary or final, and one by one they leaned in, embracing Tammy, whispering their love, their fears, and their encouragement, with Amy holding her the longest, her voice trembling as she promised Tammy she was stronger than she knew, her eyes glistening with tears she couldn't hold back, while Chris came next, steadier in tone but just as emotional, gripping her hand and assuring her he believed in her, Amanda's hug tight and protective as she prayed under her breath, none of them willing to let go. But eventually the team gave the signal and the gurney began to move, its wheels squeaking against the sterile tile floor as Tammy forced a fragile smile to reassure them, even as fear lingered in her eyes, the family trailing behind until the swinging doors separated them from her, leaving them stranded in the waiting area, powerless except for their hope. Inside the operating room, the team worked with swift efficiency, transferring Tammy onto the surgical table, connecting her to monitors, checking instruments, the anesthesiologist leaning close to speak gently, asking her to take slow breaths, her eyelids fluttering as the medicine took hold, her body growing still as consciousness slipped away. And then, without delay, the lead surgeon gave the order, the first incision was made, and the operation was underway, every motion precise, every instruction clipped and urgent, the air in the room heavy with the awareness of how delicate this procedure was and how slim the margin for error. In the waiting room, time dragged mercilessly, Amy trembling as she tried to distract herself but failing, her eyes darting constantly to the clock, tears spilling down her cheeks no matter how hard she fought them, Chris pacing back and forth, muttering under his breath, his hands fidgeting, Amanda clutching her lap and whispering quiet prayers, each of them fighting their own battle against the fear of loss, each of them trying to hold on to faith. Back in the operating room, the surgeons pressed through complications as expected, Tammy's medical condition making everything harder, alarms occasionally sounding before being silenced, quick exchanges cutting through the air as the team adjusted, recalibrated, moving with skill sharpened by urgency, the hours stretching on as fatigue threatened to creep in, but no one wavered, all of them committed to carrying Tammy through, until finally the lead surgeon declared the most dangerous stages complete, though the team did not relax until the last sutures were in place and every monitor showed her stable, only then allowing themselves the briefest sighs of relief. At last, the surgeon emerged into the waiting room where Tammy's family sat on edge, leaping to their feet the moment they saw him, the silence unbearable as they searched his face for clues, until he delivered the words they had been desperate to hear. Tammy had made it through the surgery, she was alive, she had survived. And in that moment Amy collapsed into her chair, covering her face with her hands as sobs shook her shoulders. Chris let out a shaky laugh as he pulled Amanda into a rough embrace, all of them overcome with gratitude and disbelief as the oppressive fear that had weighed on them all day finally broke. Hours later, when they were finally allowed into recovery, they found Tammy groggy but conscious, her voice weak, barely audible, but her eyes open, and that alone was enough to flood the room with relief, Amy leaning over her, still crying, telling her how proud she was, how this was the first step toward the life she had always dreamed of, Chris gripping her hand with conviction as he promised to be there for her, Amanda offering quiet reassurances, each of them overwhelmed by the sight of her alive, still fighting, still here, and though Tammy could barely respond, the faintest smile crossed her lips, the gratitude in her gaze speaking louder than words, a silent acknowledgement of the mountain she had just begun to climb. The day that had begun with fear ended in survival, not without scars, not without struggle, but with hope restored, fragile yet undeniable, a promise that though the road ahead would be long and steep, it was one she could now walk, and for her family, that was everything. In the swirl of family drama, weight loss battles, and dreams of new beginnings, the Slaton family's story unfolded like a messy quilt stitched together by heartbreak, resilience, and the constant search for peace. Amanda, weary of the endless cycles of fighting and dysfunction, announced to her stunned family that she was leaving Kentucky behind to start a new life in Florida with RJ, the man she believed was the one. Her declaration, made over a dinner meant to bring everyone closer, instead fractured the fragile ties holding them together. Some siblings felt betrayed, others abandoned, while Amanda insisted she was drained and simply needed peace, something she believed she could never find in the shadow of family conflict. As Amanda prepared for her move, the rest of the family shifted focus to their health journeys. Chris and Tammy, once battling immobility and near hopelessness, now celebrated milestones on the scale. Chris proudly shared that he'd dropped pounds through hard work, sweat, and sheer determination, while Tammy, to everyone's amazement, revealed she now weighed less than Chris for the first time in her life. Their progress was monumental, a testament to years of struggle, though it also reopened difficult conversations about skin removal surgery. Chris visited Dr. Turner, hopeful his diligence would finally pay off. The surgeon confirmed that with just a bit more weight loss, Chris was ready to proceed with skin removal, a life-changing surgery that would relieve him of physical pain and emotional burden. Tammy, encouraged, joined him in seeking a second opinion. But when faced with showing her excess skin, she recoiled, embarrassed and reluctant. Dr. Turner gently explained that though she had made enormous progress, she wasn't yet a candidate, needing more time to stabilize and lose additional weight. Tammy, crushed, felt her hopes deflate. Her family knew how much the excess skin limited her movements, yet medical barriers stood firm. Still, the journey pressed on. Amy, ever the free spirit, pulled Tammy into a burlesque dance class designed to boost body confidence. While Amy stripped down and embraced her carefree side, Tammy struggled, caught between self-consciousness and the desire to feel beautiful. The class ended with Amy energized and Tammy conflicted, highlighting their very different approaches to healing. Meanwhile, Chris doubled down at the gym, using his new referral for surgery as motivation. The family pushed one another through workouts, teasing and laughing in moments that reminded them why they fought so hard to stay connected. Yet even in those lighter moments, Amanda's departure loomed, sparking heated debates about whether she was leaving out of love for RJ, or simply to escape the turmoil at home. Old family traumas resurfaced during a spring cleaning session, when the siblings confronted hoarded belongings and even dark memories of their grandfather's tragic death at the hands of a relative. These revelations deepened their curiosity about their lineage, leading them to consult a genealogist. The findings were a mix of pride and shock, connections to the Revolutionary War, family crests symbolizing both victory and imprisonment, and tales of relatives who reached 900 and even 1,300 pounds, proving obesity was a generational struggle. The possibility of royal blood, perhaps even ties to the Queen of England, ignited fantasies of grandeur. Jokes about being Queen Tammy filled the room, yet beneath the humor lay a fragile hope that maybe their painful legacy could also hold dignity. The genealogy session planted the seed for a family trip to London, both as a chance to trace their roots and to mend fractured bonds. But before they could cross the ocean, they needed to prove to themselves that they could endure together. Chris roped everyone into preparing for the London trip by training for a 5K on their cousin's farm. What began as a light-hearted challenge became a symbolic test of endurance and unity. Tammy, once immobilized, managed to walk an entire lap around the pond without stopping, an accomplishment that left Chris glowing with pride. Yet beneath the laughter and competition, unresolved tension brewed. Amanda and Tammy, still locked in an unspoken war, attempted to reconcile. Amanda extended an olive branch, admitting she missed the closeness they once shared, but Tammy shut down, refusing to engage. Their conversation collapsed into silence and hurt, proving some wounds cut too deep to heal with words alone. As departure day neared, emotions swung wildly. Chris received the long-awaited confirmation. His surgery would go forward, validating years of work and sacrifice. Tammy, however, faced another crushing blow when Dr. Turner revealed her needs were too complex for him alone and would require a specialized surgical team. Her journey, already grueling, stretched even longer. Then came the chaos of packing for London. Amanda returned briefly from Florida to help Amy, bringing humor, space-saver bags, and her sharp tongue. Amy buzzed with excitement, fantasizing about Buckingham Palace, museums, and even farting her way across 7 continents, while Tammy remained anxious about flying, haunted by her last experience in the sky. Yet despite the bickering, setbacks, and heavy baggage, both literal and emotional, the family braced themselves for what lay ahead. London represented more than a trip. It was a test of unity, a chance to explore who they were beyond Kentucky, beyond obesity, beyond the legacy of trauma and dysfunction. It was the promise of a fresh chapter, though whether they could write it together remained uncertain. Through all the fighting, laughter, failures, and victories, one truth bound them. They were a family of survivors, stumbling forward one step at a time, carrying scars but refusing to stop walking. Chris Combs never imagined his life would collide so violently with the machinery of reality television, nor that his role as the sometimes comedic, sometimes stabilizing figure on TLC's hit series would catapult him into a legal and moral battlefield that now threatens to dismantle not only his family's livelihood but the very foundation of a billion-dollar entertainment empire. To understand how a man from Kentucky found himself squaring off against a network synonymous with voyeuristic spectacle, one must retrace the slow unraveling of trust, the financial shadows, and the relentless pursuit of ratings that ultimately culminated in the scandal now referred to in hushed tones online as Chris vs. TLC. It began quietly, almost imperceptibly, with whispers of unequal pay and favoritism, and has since grown into a full-throated accusation of exploitation, deceit, and betrayal. Fans who once tuned in for weight loss triumphs and family drama now pore over leaked documents, dissecting every rumor, every slip of information, every evasive response from the network. What began as entertainment has metastasized into a cultural reckoning, and at its heart stands Chris Combs, the unlikeliest of whistleblowers, propelled into the spotlight not by vanity but by necessity, and perhaps, by a sense of